Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So today this is kind of impromptu. I'm out in this space that I like to come through often. I like this a lot better. I'm at this space I like to come through sometimes. And I was about to go home and I was just like, you know what, let me stop by here. And then as I was walking to this spot, I was just like, let me shoot a YouTube video. So here we are. Today, I just felt like talking about pretty privilege, or more so, my take on pretty privilege or my perception of pretty privilege, because everyone perceives it differently, especially how they fall in ranking with certain stuff and just how they were raised. Y'all know these things. But yeah, let's get into it. The first time that I definitely realized that people get treated better, in a sense, depending on their looks, was definitely in elementary school. So definitely at an early age. And I think a lot of people, especially people that are forced to have to realize their looks and stuff at a young age because maybe somebody talked about them, or maybe because they just were put in situations where they had to notice their looks, and especially rank their looks amongst other people or compare themselves to other people. And it's just like, I feel like in society we tell each other, and especially we tell kids, oh, don't compare yourself, oh, you're beautiful in your own way. But it's just like, by the time that you're trying to give this messaging and stuff to them, they already feel like they're ugly. They already feel like this, that, the other, just because of, just the world, and just how the world, and especially America, just, especially as a black person, the noirness of it all, like, you already feel like you're ugly from the beginning. So I think that was my first perception of realizing, like, okay, so in the world there's this looks thing. Some people look better than other people, and better looking people, they probably are nicer people. They're the more popular people. They're this, that, the other. The ugly people, they probably get talked about more, the emasculated a little bit more, not as feminine, depending on whatever genders and however that goes. But I kind of kept that perception for a long time, because I mean it was true, especially how I saw people treat people, and how I saw other people get treated, and how I was treated. I just realized that how you look plays a big part in the life that you live. And even beyond that, just how people treat you in day-to-day life and day-to-day activities. And I guess the bigger umbrella upon all of this is not just pretty privilege, it's just respectability politics. For example, a woman, she wears modest clothes, she doesn't curse, she goes to church. She's more of a respectable woman, as opposed to somebody like Sexy Red, or somebody that shows their body a little bit more, somebody that is less filtered. They're considered less respectable, and therefore lower on the respectability politics thing. Or if you're somebody like Caesar, who plays into the right parts of femininity and does stuff in a cool way, she'll, people will love her more for that, and all this and that. Not saying that she's not a good person in general, but just saying that's how pretty privilege can work for and against people. I think what I really want to touch on, though, apart from all of this, really is respectability politics and pretty privilege on the internet and social media. So yeah, when I first got on social media, when I first got some of my first social media accounts, I knew, well, first off, before I start there, I always tell everybody whenever I talk about my first social medias, I wasn't supposed to have social media when I got them, and this was like the 7th grade. My parents didn't want me to have it, but I was on there, and my perception of social media was just like social. It wasn't so much, oh, this is how people get popping, oh, these people are viewed this way, and people express these lavish lives that they may not be living and stuff. I didn't see all of that yet. I was just being introduced to social media. I already knew, just like I knew going into regular day life, that I had to do certain things, I had to act a certain way, I had to wear certain things to be accepted. And I knew that same thing with social media. After assessing how everyone else acted and stuff, I then put myself within it, and I realized, okay, I need to do this, I need to say these funny things, I need to say these poetic things, and I need to do this and that to be popular on social media. I realized that social media was a way that maybe if I'm not as popular in my everyday life, I could be more popular here on social media and stuff. So that was my first thing with that. But fast forward to now, I'm a creative and I post a lot of fashion content. I just post content about myself that relates to me as me, Chris, the brand. And I realized, like, for a while I wasn't, expressing myself to the fullest that I could, and that was only due with time because I was still coming into myself. I was still accepting myself more, knowing what I liked, being more effeminate at times because that's who I naturally was, and expressing that on social media into the world. And so when I started doing that, I just thought, oh, yeah, I'm being a lot more authentic now. People are gonna like me more now. People are gonna engage my content a lot more because they're getting the real me. Don't everybody like authenticity? Don't everybody like this and that? Right. But I was wrong, and I think before I get into that, I'm finna touch on just how I compared and sometimes still do compare myself to other people and how that was going on. When I was in college, maybe around my sophomore year, this is when I started to take pictures more. I had just gotten to my first apartment where I wasn't living in a dorm room anymore. And I don't know, that was the start of me starting to take pictures of myself and starting to do all this and that. I talk about that in some of my other videos. That was when I was starting to be a lot more active on social media in terms of posting and doing more things when it comes to fashion and photography, just getting into that whole realm more. Because at first I just was, just post whenever. I'll be like, oh, Ashley, my sister, take pictures of me, so I can post something. I just wasn't an avid poster like talking about. But this was the start of when I started to post more. And I think near the end of that school year, by the springtime, that was when I had hit my depressive state that I mentioned in past videos that I'm going to touch on more in future videos. In this time, I was on social media a lot because I did not have a lot of human connection. I did not talk to people as much. I did not have friends to talk to and to relate to and stuff at this time. So I was on social media often, on TikTok often. This is, of course, TikTok started popping in COVID, and this was like 2021. So yeah, I was really on my phone a lot and on social media a lot. And I realized that I started to compare myself to other people. I realized that I had this realization again that people that look good get more opportunities. People that look good, people like more, no matter who they are as a person. If you look good, none of that other stuff matters because people are going to just like you. And I think that worsened my depression in a sense because even more so beyond that, I realized through seeing these people, they were sometimes living the lives that I wanted to live. They were having the fitness goals that I wanted to have. They were getting the compliments that I wanted. And that was detrimental even more to my mental health at the time. That was when I realized that social media is not something for me. That's not something for me that I can be so invested in all the time. That is not something that I should base my life on because I had to realize that everybody's different. Everybody's journey is different. And that was because in that depression time, that was also when I was having like my spiritual journey. And when that kind of started too, it was kind of hand in hand. And so I had to realize that everybody's journey is different and how something looks for somebody is not going to look for somebody else. And I think that was very comforting to me because I realized like, okay, maybe I don't have this or I don't have that, or I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. But I also realized that, that's their journey. And also beyond that, I also was realizing more stuff about the industry, how a lot of stuff can be fake, how maybe somebody doesn't have this car, maybe they're just taking pictures with this car, maybe they're renting that car, I didn't know all this stuff, and I was realizing more, and just the veil was being dropped down more, and stuff was becoming a lot more real, where I could compartmentalize and I could, see myself within that, and not to a point where I just saw myself so low. I saw myself just as equal as anybody, just as deserving as anybody, just as hardworking as anyone could be, all those things. But I also realized that certain phenotypes and certain physical attributes and certain attitudes and certain personalities do get more attention on social media and do grow accounts a lot faster, and people like those type of things better. And I think at this point I had to realize, okay, I know what can get popular, I know what that can do, but do I want to go that route? Do I want to be still try to be authentic, even more authentic to myself, or do I want to take on this persona that I know people would like a lot better? Do I want to try to be the goofy type, or try to be the comedian of social media to try to go that route? Do I want to, that was when I was questioning how I wanted my content to be, or how I want to show up on the internet world, knowing that if I did certain things, it would get me popular, but trying to see where I can find a balance in that and still have some integrity about myself and still feel true to myself and still feel truthful in my content and stuff. So with that, and with me coming into myself more and posting more and dancing more and doing all these things that I would used to be so scared to do, I slowly but surely was realizing the content that I wanted to make, and I was slowly but surely getting better at making content in general. And then that's where we get to kind of where I have been these past few months and where I am now. The mindset that I've been in these past few months and maybe this past year, after I moved home from college because I dropped out, and been working on my projects that I've been working on, like Mario, Scissor X It, and now this summer collective, and just learning more about fashion and learning how to construct the garments and just ultimately achieving my goals and chasing my dreams. I realized that sometimes on social media, hard work does always pay off, but I also realized that some people don't have to work as hard, sometimes as long as other people to achieve the same things. Like, some people don't have to try as hard. I feel like I've had times where I've made content and I've regretted it afterwards. Like, I felt like a clown in a sense. I felt like the monkey dancing for people's entertainment, because I'm doing all this, like trying to almost in a sense be like, look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at this thing that I have, look at this thing that I'm doing, look at how great I am, wanting to be noticed, and that's when I had to have a reality check, like, keep it authentic, like, yeah, I can be goofy, and yeah, I can be that clown, dancing for the audience, but it's just like, I have to want to be that clown. I have to know what I'm doing. I have to be comfortable with that. I have to, own that when I do that, instead of doing it, y'all know what I'm trying to say. Pretty privilege. I've seen people grow accounts in 2 days, 3 days, just because they look a certain way. They don't even have to post captions. They don't have to engage their stories. They don't have to do all this posting reels and all this other shit that people tell you to do, and all these people tell you to do to grow your content and your pages. They don't have to do that. They just have to show up in the bodies that they obtain. And I realized that everybody can't do that, and everyone doesn't have the privilege to be able to do that. And that was a hard pill to swallow. To know that in the body that you are, in the authenticity that you have, that people are telling you to have, and that people are saying that they like, that is being rejected. Your authenticity, your true self is being rejected, all because you don't fit the right spaces at this time to be broadcasted to the audiences that you need to be, or because algorithms have a part in it, because people aren't engaged with your stuff, therefore your accounts can't grow and all this and that. It's a whole cycle, and I get tired of it, and I especially don't like when the people that do have pretty privilege try to express like how you need to be doing this, you need to do that, to when it's just like, a lot of times they, with doing a smaller amount of the work and effort, they see more results. People like me, I have to continuously post every week, do this, do that, be creative in this way, do this thing. I have to continuously do that, and none of that is guaranteed. No likes are guaranteed, no comments are guaranteed, no shares are guaranteed. No matter how much work I'm putting in, how much inner work I'm doing to reach these creative heights and do these new things and express something that's creative and different from the norm and different from other people, that's not going to be rewarded. And that was something that I personally had to work on, like always seeking validation and seeking someone to clap for me when I do a good job. I had to realize how to clap for myself, and I think that's the whole message that I want to talk about, more so than the fact that are pretty privileged, because we know it does exist. I know that if I was more masculine and I had a more fit body and I probably had a different hairstyle, or my voice was more deeper, and that I, did certain types of content, I know that would pop off. But I also have to be authentic, and that is what this video is about, being authentic at the end of the day. Knowing that pretty privilege exists, and me here calling that out, but then looking at what are we going to do to grow? What are we going to do to do better? What are we going to do for our mental health so that we can also succeed? Like, just to touch on, I just want to really take it home with the pretty privilege, and how like certain people benefit and other people don't. Like, I have seen whole fake accounts made with pictures that aren't the person's picture that is on this page. Fake pages, basically. I've seen those get more followers in 2 days than I have been able to get in 3 to 6 months just doing actual content, making new content, doing all the things. I've seen those pages grow a lot faster, and that is where I feel like pretty privilege comes into play, because you can't always blame it on, oh, your account, you need to make a new account, you need to do this, you need to do that with your account, you're doing that wrong. It's not always that. Why do I have to jump through so many hoops to get the same benefit, And that's what I feel like people that aren't as maybe conventionally attractive, or aren't as respectable in respectability politics and that whole mush, if you're not as respectable, ultimately you're just not going to see that success as fast, especially if you're not in the right time at the right place. But that's where my beliefs come into where I am now. Yes, it is factual that people that look better do better on social media. But I also recently have realized that not everybody that looks good is gonna get that, because with me growing and with me trying to change, some people's veils are being lifted as well. Like, some people are realizing, like, hey, he can't just keep coming on here making this bullshit content and keep getting views and likes. Like, I'm not finna engage with this, because he's not trying. He's trying to play off his look. That's not finna work anymore. And that's what some people are doing in the whole grand scheme of things. But with me and with my spiritual beliefs and how I believe in divine timing and stuff working out when it's supposed to work out, when the time is right, that is when it's going to happen, basically. I'm not finna, yes, humanly, I'm going to have my days where I don't feel good. I'm going to have my days where I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like I look as good as everyone else. I'm going to have those days. But ultimately, I have to realize that it's going to happen for me. Especially if God has shown me that, Spirit has shown me what is going to happen and what could happen for me. I have to know that it is going to happen. I have to have faith in it. No matter how many bad days I have to always remember that, and I have to always try to speak positively in myself to keep going. And that's what I'm gonna try to do as well, because some of y'all may look at me like, Chris, I don't get it. Like, you have this many followers, I can't even get that many. You do this and that, and you have this and that, and I don't even have that. Yes, that's probably true. But at the same time, that goes back home to what I was talking about everybody's journey is different. I could have looked at somebody like me a few years ago and said the same thing, but now I am where I am, and I know that I deserve more. I know that I can have more, and you should know that you can have more and deserve more as well. What will always win apart from humans and their respectability politics and how they want the world to go when it comes to looks and how certain people should get treated or how they feel or how the world just feels like certain stuff should be, God and spirit will overpower that every single time. If God wants you to be successful, you're going to be successful. If God wants you to have these things, you're going to have these things. But within that, you also have to work on yourself and work on the things that you know you need to work on. Not becoming fit and going to the gym for other people's sake and for your romantic life's sake or for validation, but going to the gym and stuff now for your health, and you knowing that that is something that you need to do maybe for an industry that you're in. Doing it for those reasons, not so much doing it for everyone else. Because when you do it for those reasons that I'm saying, like to grow and to do better, it'll last a lot more and you will stick to it because the reasons that you're doing it is not so vain, it's not so surface level. And ultimately you're going to be a lot more successful. That is when I feel like the opportunities come, when you work on the things that you know that you need to be working on. Like me, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I'm going to give y'all a few examples. Me right now, I know I'm supposed to be working on them clothes that I'm finna work on when I get home. I know that I need to try to move my body every day. I know that I need to work on my eating habits, which I am doing. Like I'm doing all these things. I know that that's what I need to do to achieve my goals. And I know that when I do those things, the abundance and the opportunities and the stuff that I want to happen is going to happen. But I can also know that respectability politics still is a thing. But I also know that when I do the things that I need to do, my journey is going to be my journey, and I'm going to get the things that God promised to me and that I know is going to come from me, regardless of how the world thinks. You know, and that's where I feel like everyone should work on. Apart from the systems that are set up that we feel like are going to boggle us down every single time, no matter how hard we try, we have to know that internally, we know the stuff that we need to be working on apart from the systems. God and everything is going to work out those systems, and we're here to work on those systems as well. Don't get me wrong, like don't not do anything, but I'm saying you are the priority because you can't help other people until you help yourself. You want this platform, but when you get that platform, you haven't done the emotional work, you haven't done public relations work, you haven't learned enough to have that platform, to have these things that you want. So when you get those things, they're not gonna last. And that's where I'm coming to. Like, you want longevity. No matter how long it takes you to get there, when you do get there, you want it to last. You want to understand what's going on. You want to be in control of your life. Yes. So at the end of the day, fuck respectability politics. How I look is not who I am. How I talk is not who I am. How I show up in the world is that's how I express who I am. But, you know, at the end of the day, to my core, my truth is my truth, my spirit is my spirit, and that's what it is. And so, once I became happier with that, and I'm working on becoming happier with that every single day, that's when I have more fulfillment, apart from validation from other people, and apart from validation from social media. And it's easy for me to say this now that I've worked on it, but stop comparing yourself to other people. Know that you are a bad bitch. If you don't feel like you're a bad bitch, what things that you know that you need to be working on? What habits that you know that you need to be changing to feel more like a bad bitch? Do those things, and the things will come in due time. Not on your time, on God's time, on Spirit's time. It'll come then, not when you want. And don't feel like after you do these things, or you feel like you've worked on yourself, and you feel like, oh yeah, I've done this, I did that, I did this thing that Chris said to do, I did that thing that God said to do, and it's still not coming. It's not time yet. So when it's your time, it's your time, and that's when it'll happen at the end of the day. Yes, some people may look like they're getting it easier, but you never know what they're going on in their journey. You never know what therapy they may be going through, stuff that they have to deal with that you don't have to deal with because you have these things, or you have other privileges that they may not have. Yes, they have this pretty privilege and they have all of that in that aspect, but they could be suffering all over here. They could be broke. You think they got money? They could be all these things that you've worked on. That's why you have to work on yourself and worry about yourself, because looking at them and seeing what they have and the platforms they have, none of that to them, at the end of the day, none of that will matter, because they don't have the emotional fulfillment. They don't have all the rest of the fulfillment. Yes, they look good, but they don't have friends that they actually can care about. They don't have romantic interests. They really care about what they think and how they feel. They just care about how they look. So everything is not what it seems. Bridges are way to place. Do it all on your own timing, and it'll work out. But respectability politics, as we speak today, it is a thing, and it is a ruler in certain instances. But when you don't subscribe to that anymore, and you don't, operate in those ways, it no longer has power over you, or as much power over you, even though it may affect how stuff works. Maybe at the end of the day, it can affect it, because God is stronger than all of that. But yeah, that's all. I hope this was like aesthetically pleasing. I hope y'all like this, and I'm glad I was able to shoot this video just off the dome. And that's why I do a lot of my videos from my own experiences and stuff, because I feel like it's more authentic. So sometimes I may say the wrong things, but just know I'm learning, and I may realize something that I said was wrong in the past. Most of the time I'm going to stand on what I said, because I meant what I said, and I try not to say stuff that I don't mean, and I also try not to say stuff that I'm not living by. So yeah, the whole Scissor X8 thing, we talked about that. Like, I was trying to express a story that I had not completely finished myself, so I was finishing it as I was doing it. But yeah, this one, let's do some thumbnail pictures. Hopefully we can get some cute. Look, y'all, there's a whole world out here for you to explore outside of social media. That's all I'm saying. Ciao.